but the language of communication in the university is English. And I say, who says so?
Yes.
But it is, yes, the issues of language and politics, we empower some languages and we disempower others. Perhaps unintentionally so. We empower languages by giving them, for instance, kutheni apha 80% yenu iyathetha in language kodwa fanele alithethe isiNgesi ndithibilize. So it is no one will ask me at home why I speak Xhosa or why I speak English. But in spaces like this, except for when my child speaks English to my mother will say no English at home. But in spaces like this, it's almost given. We don't even ask why. So why are some languages more powerful than others? So I'd like to talk briefly about the issues of language and power. Bamboshi, one of the people I really admire in sociolinguistics, one of my role models. My students will know that I quote him second. Bamboshi argues that all languages are of similar value. As a Nigerian sociolinguist, they are of similar value to each. They have similar value to each person. Their language can completely communicate every junction. If all languages then have got such value, why are some languages more valuable than others? So earlier on I made a distinction between primary and secondary discourses in language use. And I said that generally both these codes can be used to speak, to express a speaker's knowledge, values and wisdom. Of particularly importance, or a particularly important point to make is that while primary discourse are mainly confined to domestic contexts or lower domains of language use, secondary domains are dependent on well-established institutions. And well-established institutions are institutions like schools. So from primary schooling right up to actual most highest level of education. So it is therefore possible for a secondary discourse to be poorly developed while primary discourse continues to be sustained in the same way. But its sustenance or its maintenance doesn't mean that that language has got the value that it should have. Because as we've seen here, we've forgotten whether it was intentionally done, so we've forgotten the values, the importance of some of the knowledge that is embedded in our language. I just want to skip a bit and talk about, let me just finish this part about power. From what you've just said, I hope that you're able to tell that maintenance and transmission of language, of knowledge embedded in the language, can be orchestrated. It is mainly by those in positions of power that do the crafting, that do the orchestration. And power means that some groups are dominant and others are dominated. And by implication, knowledge, even linguistic knowledge, from the dominant groups matters than that from those of dominated groups. So by privileging English in spaces such as this, it therefore means that the power embedded in English as a language, I'm not even talking about the other languages, but the power embedded in English is privileged. And that which is embedded in the other languages is dominated, is not seen as important. So that is the issue of language and power. In the South African context, from the early contacts with exogenous groups, with Europeans and so forth. The power of languages in maintaining through policy. Some policy written down, some policy not written down. And I'm skipping some bits, so if you can, I just want now to share with you, some of us don't believe that African languages or indigenous languages can be used in these spaces. We don't believe that. And I just want to share with you some of the observations from early missionaries, explorers, travelers that came through the continent or to the southern tip of the continent and made contact with African society. And I would like to focus more on this part of the world. And I also want to say, someone is going to say, therefore, what is important about that? And I would like to quote or paraphrase Tisani. It's also a very important thesis that PhD thesis written in 2000 that you can read on the historiography of this part of the world. He argues that it is early contact with travelers, missionaries, colonizers, and so forth that gives us a glimpse of the indigenous societies before changes resulted from that contact. So when I give you the quotes from the early missionaries and from Europeans, other Europeans, I want to keep that in mind, that by these people articulating this thing, they were reflecting on what they saw at the time before everything got pear-shaped. So one of the people writes, Van der Kemp writes, he works here in Uitenhage towards the end of the 19th century, 18th century, 1790s. So he says, in all grammatical varieties of forms, isiXhosa, and he used Cafe language, is eminently distinguished by system of and regularity. It is correctly spoken by all classes of society, which is not the case perhaps with any of our European tongues. As a general, if not invariably, a Xhosa person will never be heard using an ungrammatical variation. He's making comparison of the intellectual aspect. I wish I could say intellectualness. I don't know if there's a word like that in English. The intellectualness of isiXhosa as opposed to that of the European language. And so we're talking now about the linguistic aspect and the structure of the language. And then they go and talk about the knowledge embedded in the language. Someone, Maynov, works mostly with isiSotho, but Kalmenov. But Osi says, whoever wants to gain, she was here for a bit, and so whoever wants to gain an intimate knowledge of the native, and excuse the use of it's used in it in a pure linguistic context. Whoever wants to gain intimate knowledge of the native will best do it by studying the fruits of his intellect, those productions which serve for the education of both the young and the old, wherein his soul expresses itself, unstifled by foreign intrusion and unfettered from the burden of daily toil. Lastly, about the gift of logic, law, and all that. Holden, writing in about 1866, writes, isiXhosa oral tradition in debates demonstrates gift of logic. When a truth is expounded, they will listen attentively and patiently, but not answer. If they speak at all, it is simple to say severely. However, they have tenacious memory, and nothing escapes their keen observation. And when knowledge is engraved in the tablet of their memory, it is never obliterated. So these are the observations, and I can quote a lot of this. I just have time for this few. But one wonders then, right down here in the Kume Valley, near Indao Katata Ujaha, in 1871, Stewart writes, I just want you to note the change of tone. She says there is very little in old Kafedom worth preserving. And we think it will be the wisdom of all the natives as soon as possible to move forward into the day and secure the blessings the present time brings to them. We make this statement as missionaries, even while we intend, if possible, to publish from time to time brief notices of Kaffir law and customs. These possess a value as enabling us as missionaries to understand the native people. So whatever was written by the missionaries, and I can talk even about the grammar of the languages, whatever was written, mostly, I don't want to make you but mostly from these writings of the missionaries, if you look at the archives of the missionaries, the journals and everything, it is mainly for how can we best use the language to teach the Bible, to teach our ways of life. And in 1981, Makalima writes also in a thesis, says, except for the language written by these missionaries when they started writing, except for the language, nothing about the early isiXhosa text was isiXhosa. So in other words, what we've consumed that was written by the missionaries were words, the knowledge, the cultural systems, and so forth, that should be reflected in the language was not there. The question one would ask then, what purpose was served by this systematic and deliberate erasure of the Yoma? I want to end by just again sharing with you. I was in a seminar once at UCT, and the topic was on gender, and someone was talking about how women in African society are subjugated, submissive, and so forth, and used the English language analysis of male, female, in making sense of these things. Yes. But for me, I could not make sense of what she was saying because I could take this and put it in my home, in a traditional Transkei where I grew up in. And for me, the women she was talking about were not the women I grew up with. And even the language, even using the distinctions that are derived from English, I could not see those in the language that she used for isiXhosa, for instance. But, and by the way, and then I stood up and I raised my hand, I said, but this is so unfamiliar in my work. And then the person who was giving this session said, go and bring evidence. Which is someone asked what methodologies do you use, and Professor Ngomo asked, I see. But where do we collect our data? And Prof said that whenever, so Dr. Opeta said, whenever someone writes, there is always an intention for someone that he requests. So I just wanted, and then when they said there's no evidence, I had no evidence. Because I didn't have the university education I had did not give me the skill to engage and transmit the knowledge I had about my society. I didn't have the language to do that. So I'm trying today. I hope you can stay with me. I want to look at the suffix Gazi. The people, so it's that the people know Gazi. The narrative, the general narrative is that Gazi is a feminine marker, isn't it? So Gazi is a suffix. You guys are not doing your job. Kazi is a suffix that is often put at the end of a noun. So for instance, if you say, what's her name? Sipho, Sipho would be a gift, and Sipho Kazi would be a big gift. Okay? Sipho would be gift, and Sipho Kazi would be a big gift. So Kazi is a feminine marker. Is described as a feminine marker in terms of the grammar that actually is taught at school. So I looked at this Kazi, and Kazi does not occur. Oh, sorry, Kazi occurs in other instances as well. So, for instance, we have Ubao Kazi. Isn't it? So Ubao Kazi, what is Ubao Kazi? And someone said, again in my class, it's my father's sister. What is Ubao Kazi? Are you raising your okay. It's Rafat. Okay, let me try. No. Bawukazi is your father's elder brother. So it's your father's elder brother. And then we have a term like Mhlekazi. Mhlekazi is the point I would like to make is that Kazi in Xhosa has got a meaning different from what is generally used to describe Kazi in grammars. Kazi, but Kazi occurs mostly in those concepts that refer to women, mostly, generally. But its meaning doesn't have femininity in respect to the opposite, which is a masculine. Okay? And the sad thing about these people, the way they systematize the language, someone said that philosophy is formulaic, this has to happen. So I think they came with the knowledge of Latin, and not I think, they came with the knowledge of Latin because those times they would study Latin, maths, philosophy, and then as surplus they would be brought to us. So they came, and they systematically describe the language in its most structural form. That anything that did not fit into this structure would be exception to the norm. So if you have something like Mhlekazi, the most beautiful man, but not in physics, in actions, in everything. So they say, oh, it's an exception to the norm. Okay. Bawukazi is an exception to the norm. But Bawukazi, actually Kazi, in essence, reinforces the idea of the root word, not only in size, but in attributes. So you have Sipho, which is gift. You have Sipho, which is gift, but you've got Isipokazi, which is the intensity. Okay. And also another thing is that this thing, so I'm into this. I would like to really, some people interact with me know I'm into this, and I would really like to crack the code, so to speak. It's really concerning me that even concept like Inkosi is what? Chief. Okay? And Inkosikazi, what is it? You would say wife. and you'd say Mrs. But in the early dictionaries written by the missionaries, data collected 1700s, 1800s, they describe this, they give this one Nkosi, chief. And then they give the equivalent of Nkosikazi as chieftainess. But then, below that, they say this has been used by the missionaries to mean Mrs. or wife. So it's eroding the equity of relationships. That Nkosi, So what I'm trying to say is that there are these things that it's difficult to find them because there are first there in archives. You open a page and there are peelings, there are kazek and there are kazuka. So this knowledge is knowledge that is hidden from us. Maybe intentionally so. I mean, in newspapers and so forth, in newspapers written by the early literates, written by these people themselves. But if you want to read in terms of the dictionary, lexicography, this dictionary, it's called, we debate this in my class, so please don't be offended. We talk about it on the class because we have a fight in the first two lectures about whether to use this dictionary or not. But it's called Kefa English Dictionary. So it is the context and everything. It's highly offensive, but we talk about it. I just want to end off. But what does this mean for us now? What does it mean for us? There is a need to boldly challenge canonized knowledge that has become entrenched in these structures, and then claim space for other knowledge reflecting African ways of knowledge. And it does not mean that by doing that we need to idealize and idolize or glorify the knowledge from the past. We need not also use it to replace it, but such knowledge can coexist. It can coexist with other knowledges, and we should be able to talk about it here and boldly say that we had this, and so forth. Okay. And I'd like to argue that when that person said bring evidence, I didn't have evidence, but now linguistic evidence is proving important for us to kind of argue about these things. If we believe that language is a reflection of the society's ways of knowing, wisdom, so language is critical in that. IsiXhosa does not have a long literary heritage as other